Hey everyone, Ryan here from Next Level Property Investing. I hope you're well. In this video, if you're a property entrepreneur, if you're a passionate property investor, or you're looking to take your journey to the next level, this video is for you. I'm going to show you exactly how I've built my serviced accommodation business out, how I'm scaling it towards £1 million revenue a year business, and how you can do exactly the same. I started with very little knowledge around serviced accommodation, but I've managed to build this beast out, and it continues to grow month in, month out. Before we dive into the video, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure that you get notifications every time I drop a video. And if you want to take your game to the next level, head over to nextlevelpropertyinvesting.com. Check out all the awesome stuff over there on the website. And if you really want to take your game to the next level, book a call with myself and we can have a chat. Now let's dive into the video. I'm going to talk to you all about how becoming a host can change your life. So for me, hosting is part of the game. You know, don't get me wrong, I don't deal with guests. You know, I have no interest in dealing with guests. I'm all about the money. Obviously, guests are an important part of the business. They form a part of the business. Without them, we don't have a business. But for me, it is a business. So therefore, you should not be doing the operations. You should always be working on bringing more and more properties into the game. And that's what I do. The more stock we have, the more guests we can host, and therefore the more money we can make. But it all comes down to good due diligence. You know, you can get a lot of the bad stock as well, and I've seen it. You know, you can get wrong properties that cost money, and therefore they lose you money every month. You know, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of people out there saying serviced accommodations, you know, an easy game, it's get rich quick, and you know, it's far from that. But if you do it properly and you know how to execute, then you can make it a very lucrative venture for yourself. And the great thing with serviced accommodation is you don't have to own the property to get into it. You can rent properties off landlords, something I do. I did very well at the beginning. I continue to do very well now, and we continue to push that model harder and harder, because that model then feeds my asset purchases, which I then run on the buy, refurbish, refinance, which there's plenty of other videos on my channel which goes into how that operates, and that builds my net wealth and that builds my asset bank. But with the serviced accommodation side of things, so I knew nothing as a serviced accommodation host. I didn't even know what Airbnb or Booking.com was. And then one day I struggled to get an apartment of mine rented. So I decided, I was speaking to a friend and he told me about this Airbnb thing. I started investigating it, and I started with no knowledge at all. I went to IKEA, I bought some furniture, I made it up myself, and I took some iPhone pictures, and away we went. Little did I know that this was going to be the start of my, you know, Airbnb journey, service accommodation journey, Booking.com journey, whatever you want to call it. You know, it was the start though. Within about 5 days, I'd taken about £3 worth of bookings, and my eyes were just lit up, you know, so it can move that quickly. And I do think that when you're setting serviced accommodation properties up, if you're not getting bookings within week 1, you've got a problem, you know, especially within the first 10 days. So once you've gone live with all your pictures on, if you're not getting bookings, you've either got your pricing wrong, or you're just going wrong somewhere. You've bought the wrong property, you haven't analysed properly, it's the wrong area, you're set up wrong, there's something wrong with your advert, you know. So if you're not getting bookings within week 1, and this is why I say you can make money from day 1 from serviced accommodation, because if you get the right property, you can make money from day 1. So you've got to then push through that. You work out your good areas, your bad areas, and for me, serviced accommodation, it's not about tourists, okay? And there's a sort of misdemeanor that serviced accommodation is about tourists. Don't get me wrong, there's some areas where it is, Lake Districts, Cotswolds, probably down on the south coast in the summer, you know, Newquay, places like that. But for the majority of people taking on serviced accommodation, and the majority of my portfolio, it's all about businesses. And serviced accommodation as well, it's not just set and forget. It's not just post an advert on Booking.com or TripAdvisor and away we go and we're going to get loads of money in. You know, it is a business. You've got to work it. You've got to drive sales. You've got to go out there and prospect. You've got to be putting your name out there, getting your brand out there, you know, getting those direct bookings, because that's where the difference is. You know, those direct bookings, the long-term bookings. Yesterday I secured an 18-week booking Monday to Friday. So they'll turn up on a Monday, they'll leave on a Friday. We can have tourists in over the weekend, and that's for the next 18 weeks, you know. So that takes us well into next year. It's going to cover us through the off season, and that's the difference between a successful business and an unsuccessful business. But we have to go out there and get that business. We've got to put our brand out there. We've got to, you know, build trust with businesses. We've got to build trust with, you know, other hosts who recommend us. We've got to build trust with everybody that we work with, and then we have to do a good job on the front end. So, you know, I mentioned before, I didn't really care about guests. Probably not the best words, but what I meant by that is I don't want to be seen to be dealing with guests. If I'm dealing with guests, I can't be acquiring property. I have people in my team who are focused on guest management. They are a lot more patient than I am, so I use their skill set to deal with the guests. And my skill set is going out and finding more properties. My skill set is analysing and taking risk on. I'm good at that, so I use my strengths, and that helps us propel the business forward. They use their strengths, and that helps us run the business more efficiently. Creating that 5-star, hosting experience for the guests when they come, and then we get good reviews, and again, that helps with the booking channels, and that helps with more and more bookings. So it's an ever-evolving business, service accommodation. But first and foremost, you've got to get some property. For me, the easiest way to get into this game is through rentals. So you go and rent a property off a landlord, you turn it into a service accommodation unit, you pay him a rent each month, you cover all the bills, and your difference between what you've generated hosting and all your expenses is your profit. Done correctly, with the right rent paid, you can make a lot of money doing that, and then what I've done over the years is I've used that money to then reinvest into buying assets, and then I buy more assets, and ultimately there's more cash flow involved in them because the mortgages are cheaper than the rentals, but it serves a purpose, and I continue to push the strategy. I'm still very heavily involved in Rent to SA, and I still always will be, because I think it's a great cash flow and strategy when you know what you're doing and you know how to get the right property. So once you've got your property, it's then about setting it up and making sure that it's automated. Service accommodation is not an easy business, okay? Now, it can be easy, and you can either run it yourself or you can hand it over to somebody else. Obviously, if you hand it over to somebody else, you're relying on them to run your business, something that I'm not a massive fan of, but, at the end of the day, some people are time poor, some people don't want to invest the time in getting the full knowledge of how to run channel managers, how to run pricing algorithms, how to run cleaners, linen, and all that sort of good stuff, so they're quite happy to just pay a fee and palm that off to somebody else so they can focus on acquiring property. Now I do that in a way, but I do it in my own business internally. Obviously I palm it off to the office and they deal with the guest management, whereas I obviously then look at just continuing to acquire more property, and that works well for me. But if you want to scale en masse, you've got to acquire property. You've got to be focused on acquiring property all the time. Just constantly out there. You should not be doing cleaning. You should not be doing linen. You shouldn't be running around to pick up consumables or anything like that. It should all be leveraged out. All you should be doing is focusing on getting more property if you want to scale fast and you want to scale quickly. But working with landlords, it's if you deliver what you say you're going to deliver. So for me, that is a no hassle service, no voids. You'll hardly ever hear from me unless you want to hear from me, and you'll get paid every single month. Now, to most landlords, that's music to their ears. And by the way, it's for the long term, because as long as I've got this as a business operation and as long as I'm making money from it, I'm going to need your property. So, good due diligence allows me to be confident with that statement, and I'm confident that the property will then work. So it becomes a good relationship. And then what you find is most of these landlords have 2, 3, 5, 10 properties, sometimes 20 or more. And what they end up doing is every time a tenant checks out of their property, you're the first person that they ring. I've got another one, would you like to take it on? I've got another one, would you like to take it on? And that's how you start to scale quickly, as well as still going out and finding the single landlords. So they're everywhere. There's properties for rent everywhere. If you jumped on Rightmove now, search your city and how many properties were for rent, I bet you'd have at least a few thousand. You only need 5, 10 to get you started. 5 or 10 would change your life. Done properly, 5 or 10 good serviced accommodation units would no doubt take most people out of their jobs, give them a full-time property career, and create a lot more freedom in terms of time, as long as you use the leveraging system correctly. You have to make sure that you're going to be having other people doing the operations. Keep it cost efficient doing it that way, mind. You can't just pay all your profit to them to run the operations. So you've got to make sure it's correctly done. And then you focus on just getting out there, building relationships and acquiring more and more property. And from that, you then you figure your own way out. No service accommodation business is the same. So I've come across many. Obviously, we do a managed service accommodation service for investors. I've had investors that have tried their own service accommodation business and not failed as such, but just didn't manage to get it working, and they wanted more time to go and acquire, so they put it onto us and we then manage it for them. I have had failed ones, and I've had some good ones as well that just want a bit more time back. So not every single business is the same. Everybody runs them different. I speak to a lot of people who run service accommodation businesses across the UK. Everyone uses different channel managers, everyone uses different cleaning setups, everyone uses different softwares, CRM systems, guest handling, guest communication, so you've got to kind of piece it out yourself and work it out. I like to keep it as automated as possible. So if I can choose a computer system, I'll choose a computer system. Try and take away human error, try and take away human involvement, because the last thing you want to be doing is running out at 3 a.m. to open lockboxes, or let guests in because they've locked themselves out, or call plumbers because the boiler's broken, or whatever it might be. Yes, that needs to form part of your business, and you've got to expect that that's going to happen, but you can leverage that stuff out, as long as you've got that mentality and that mindset, and you're setting yourself up from day one, and that allows you to constantly focus on the job. I acquired 21 properties in 7 months many years ago, and I thought it was great at the time, and yes, the stats sound great. I did another 40 in 6 months once I'd gathered myself together and got back out there. But the 21 in 7 months actually really hindered the business in a way, because I didn't acquire anything for 3 months after that, because at the time I didn't get any help. I was trying to do it all myself. I was dealing with guests, I was dealing with maintenance, and I acquired all these properties, and I didn't really think about how I was going to sort of set them up. I didn't think about how I was going to run them, so I was just doing everything myself, and all my time got sucked into operations, and I went on no viewings. I wasn't making any prospecting calls. I wasn't sending any messages to any potential landlords or investors to get more properties. So the pipeline naturally dried up. At the end of the day, property game is a sales funnel. So the pipeline dried up, and I acquired nothing for 3 months. I gathered myself, I figured a way out. I made sure that I was going to leverage stuff out, make sure I was never going to go back into that operational side of the business, because it hindered the business's growth. And that's one of the biggest mistakes I see from a lot of entrepreneurs who've maybe got their first few units up and running. They're doing it all themselves. They're even doing cleaning, to try and save a few quid here and there. Yes, you might save money, but the cost of not being out there acquiring more property is a lot more expensive than the few pounds that you'll spend hiring a cleaner, hiring a virtual assistant to run your business, and dealing with guests, So think about that when you're setting your business up. It's not just as straightforward as just set it up on Airbnb and away we go. I've got a full operation going on just over there, and they're contacting guests all the time. We're looking for direct bookings. We've got signals that when we get a booking through a channel, if they say certain things, we know that's a direct booking, and we can potentially turn it into a longer direct booking. We're out prospecting, we're out speaking to companies, we're on the hunt when we're out and about. There's a full sort of Wolf of Wall Street, let's call it, sales operation going on in there, to not only acquire more property, but to get these properties full. I don't want to be building my foundations on Airbnb's or Booking.com's grounds. I want my own foundations. If all the booking channels disappeared, I want to make sure my business still survives. And that's another mistake that I see a lot of hosts operating under, is building just Airbnb, Booking.com, and that's it. And they're just sitting and waiting, checking their phone every day. Oh, I haven't got a book. Oh, there's a booking. Oh, we haven't got a book. Oh, there's a cancellation. And it's a never-ending stress cycle, because you're not taking control of your own destiny. By getting out there, prospecting in the right way, speaking to the right companies, building the right relationships, you can fill your own calendars. You don't need to be paying 15% to these booking channels to bring bookings in. Now, I'm not saying turn them off, because they are a good source, and they do sometimes initiate the first booking. A lot of companies will go there for the first booking, but they'll only book a week. But the good companies will then figure out how to get in touch with the right person, how to maximize that 1 week booking into a 3 month booking or a 6 month booking, how to then get in touch with other people that might be working on the project, or other people that might be involved in the company, and just scaling it en masse. And when you're at that point, you've got a robust business. There is no on and off peak seasons. You can just have a consistent revenue stream through your properties, month in, month out, with a successful operation going on, and that allows you to just continually scale with confidence, because the cash flow is coming in, which provides more cash flow to acquire more units, do more setups, and kick your journey on. And that's how you scale. Get yourself out the operations, get yourself on the front line, finding the deals, speaking to landlords, building the relationships, and scale quick. Don't forget to head over to my website, nextlevelpropertyinvesting.com. Book a call with myself if you want to know how I can help you scale your property journey further. And don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. And one last thing, don't forget to check out the How To Property podcast, which I launched about 5 weeks ago. Had some awesome guests so far, and I've got many more guests coming up for you over the next few weeks, which are going to be awesome. Don't forget to leave a review there as well. Hope it helps. Take care.